Um, so that is just recording now. So today we are going to be discussing resilience and agility. So these will be skills that obviously will help us in these very uncertain, changing times. Just to introduce myself, in case anyone isn't aware, my name is Julia O'Sullivan. I'm a business psychologist. You've probably seen my name pop up in your emails over the last while because I've been communicating with you guys in relation to the Dirty Salad Club. So anyone who hasn't met me yet, you can put a face to the name now. And what we are going into today, as I said, it's all about resilience and agility. So it really goes without saying at this stage, we're in these very unpredictable, changing, stressful, difficult times. We're presented with new challenges, as coaches and trainers and as individuals. For example, trying to deliver services that maybe traditionally we would do face-to-face. How do we kind of keep our business going virtually? We may be facing the challenges of, maybe clients freezing budgets. Maybe they're deprioritizing L&D or coaching. That can be really challenging for us. And then our clients are also facing those massive challenges, in the form of, maybe risking being let go or having to let other people go. They might be, trying to juggle the new pressures of kind of homeschooling and managing kids in the home while also trying to work full time as well. So we're all facing a lot of different challenges at the moment. So being agile and resilient is absolutely essential. It always has been, but now it's really being put to the test. So it's important for us, our friends and family, and it's important for our clients to really, focus on what are those skills that we have that we can use to better cope with the challenges that we are going through at the moment. So just a quick kind of overview. There's so much that we could talk about in terms of resilience and agility. What I'm focusing on today will start off with a little bit of gratitude. Next, going into, how do we get control back in a big situation where we feel that we might be out of control? And then we'll talk a little bit about how do we feel about change? How do our different preferences towards change and how to be more agile? So some of you I know will probably be quite familiar with resilience or stress management, but this 45-minute session is really just a reminder to ourselves about being intentional and, holding ourselves accountable and doing what maybe we know that we could or should be doing. I have this image of a sat nav up on the screen. And most of us have probably used these before. You key in your destination and it tells you where to go. But have you ever put in the destination and then, maybe stopped paying attention to it, kind of switched onto autopilot as you drive along, and then you realize you've actually missed a turn a while back? So this was telling us where to go, but we might not have been paying attention to it. And that's, I suppose, just illustrates that the value of this tool comes from, paying attention to it. And that's the same with all our resilience and our, knowledge about how to manage stress or cope with change. We may, on a conscious level, know what we can be doing, but it's not always what we're putting into practice. So, as I said, the value comes from really paying attention to it. And that's what we're kind of going to be doing for the next 45 minutes or so. So, what I want you guys to do, so actually if anyone saw Billy Byrne's session last Wednesday, you'll see how he used a warm-up, and that's, explained the value of it. And when it comes to, if you're going for a run or you're, doing an activity like this, it's really important to get yourself in the right headspace, in the right kind of, energy going. So what I want you to do is use the chat function, and I want you to write down something that you are grateful for today. So I will just open up that chat there and love to see all the comments coming in. So, we're talking about resilience today, and we need to get in that positive headspace. We're not focusing on the problems, we're focusing on what kind of solutions or strengths do we have. Brilliant. So loads of things coming in. So we have a few about the sunshine. The sun is shining, thankfully, in Dublin, which is lovely. Health, family, good sleep, the weather, that I locked my office door just before my 4-year-old got in the room. Excellent. Being alive, exactly. Yeah. So, and a cup of tea, exactly. So there's so much there. There's, you know, from the small things to the big things. Exactly. Walk in the sunshine and meditate. Like, I'm really grateful at the moment for Zoom and good internet connection, you know, that we can all stay connected. I don't think there's ever a good time for a global pandemic, but at least we have, you know, the resources to really connect with each other. We're not totally isolated. So brilliant. Lots of great comments coming in there about all the things that we are grateful for. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Zoom meeting, small pleasures. Yeah, so I suppose that's just, again, an illustration of it's such a simple way to get in that positive headspace and to, you know, turn on the kind of positive emotion switchboard in our brains. So expressing gratitude, you know, there's countless studies on it about the value of it, and basically it's just been proven that, you know, expressing gratitude and noticing those little things to be grateful for is, you know, decreases activity in the amygdala, which is that fear processing center of the brain, and it can increase dopamine, so making us more joyful and content. Really simple way to get your day started or to close out your day. Writing 3 things you're grateful for, you know, can be done with kids or clients or yourself. So it's a way of, you know, controlling your mind and choosing what to focus on. And I think that, you know, I would have a very different start to the day if I started off the day listing all the things that maybe are outside of my control, that I can't influence. You know, I'm talking about, okay, how are others going to act, predicting what's going to happen in this global pandemic, how long this whole situation will last, if others are following social distancing rule, amount of toilet paper left in the shops. You know, if I go down, I'm not spending my time focusing my energy on that, because it will just drain me. So that would be a much less productive activity, would be to, you know, focus on all the things that you can't control. But it's understandable and normal that, you know, we can get kind of sucked into these things of trying to worry and predict and understand. But what I want you to do now, I'm going to break you into breakout groups, and what I want you to have as you know, coaches or whatever you are, a psychologist, trainer, anything like that, I'm going to break you into great breakout rooms and just have a little discussion. What is within your control right now? What are the things that you can focus your energy on, that you can influence? And once you've had that discussion, then ask what else. So go beyond what immediately comes up as the obvious for you. So I'm going to break you out into different rooms now. Hang on one second. So I will give you about 5 minutes for this. Okay. Okay, so you'd be invited to go out to a breakout room, and then we will come back in about 5 minutes. So have a discussion about what can you control. Okay. So you should be invited there to join those breakout rooms. I'm just resuming recording. So I can control, you know, my attitude towards my work or this current situation. I can control the amount of effort that I put in to working from home, staying fit, for example. You know, if I could say, oh, well, gyms are closed, that's it, you know, fitness goals are putting on hold, but, you know, you can adapt around that and make efforts to stay fit. Switching off from social media, you know, I can control, okay, there's a lot of negativity going on, I want to take a step back from that. I can easily do that. My own social distancing, you know, I can follow recommendations of the professionals. I can't control what other people are doing, but I can control my own. Finding new fun things to do at home, again, bringing back that, okay, I know I can't maybe do certain things, but what can I do? And I control how I treat others. So this is where I want to focus my energy. But what about you guys? What kind of things did you come up with? Anyone want to share any insights? You can unmute yourselves.
Yeah, just positively gossip if I can. Julie, Donnie, who's initially, I was going to say stuck, well, he kind of is. He was talking about it's kind of your one, all the media coming at him, and he actually deliberately, for the weekend, switched it off. So he's not taking in any more of the constant updates, and it's greatly helped how he's feeling. So I think that's a really good one, knowing when to switch off, when to switch into all the updates.
Exactly, yeah. Like you can get as much information as you want once or maybe twice a day. It doesn't have to be constant, yeah. Any other insights there about things you can control?
One of the things as a team we decided was just to be kind. So I think that in letters to people that we really like in our lives and popping in a tiny bit of chocolate. Not with our names, because it's not about us, it's not about our ego, but just so that there's actually going to be 160 people get little things on their doorsteps and go, wow. And it's not to spook people or scare people, because we're going to put in a little heart and say, we thought of you. And just again, it's just a random, it's going to cost nothing.
Yeah.
But it's just to people that we know, love, work with, share with, care about. And it's not about us, it's about the person picking up the envelope and going, someone thought, send me a bar of chocolate. Done.
Brilliant. Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Tom. Anyone else then? Any other kind of things that they're doing at the moment that they're focusing on what they can control?
Hi Julie, it's Niamh here. One of the things that I find I control is accepting the situation as it is. I think when it happened initially, I really struggled with it. We had a big project that was lined up to be delivered in situ for the next couple of months. And then suddenly that was taken away. And as you said earlier, the budget was gone as well. And initially I was really angry and annoyed, all the work that we had put in. And then I started accepting it and accepting where I'm at the moment. And, you know, some days I get up and I feel good, so I accept that. And some days I get up and I don't feel so great, so I kind of accept that as well. And that's enabled me to have like a more positive mindset. And also, as I was saying in the group, I kind of got paralyzed for a while. I couldn't do anything. I was overwhelmed by the amount of information and the amount of presentations that I could attend, or workshops or whatever, and I did nothing. And now I'm starting to come out of that and have picked certain ones that are of real interest to me, and then taking baby steps to move forward and accepting the reality of what we're living in at this particular moment. So that for me is something that I'm trying to control, acceptance.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Niamh. And thank you for choosing us as one of your, you know, that you want to join. And actually, what you mentioned there just reminded me that I read a Harvard Business Review article recently that was basically saying that discomfort that you're feeling at the moment is grief.
Oh, it's a fantastic article. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
Exactly. Yeah. And so those 5 stages, you know, where you're kind of going through the denial and anger and, you know, sadness. And I think probably a lot of us have gone through that range of emotions, and then hopefully we're kind of coming to a stage now where it's going, yeah, acceptance. Okay, this is happening. And actually, I just have a picture up on the next slide. Anyone who does, you know, swims in the sea or surfing or anything like that might be familiar with the advice if you are caught in a rip current. And so what you're not meant to do is, you know, try and just swim towards the shore against the current. And what you're advised to do is swim parallel to the shore. And that is basically, you know, the reason for that is if you try to spend all your time and energy, you know, fighting against the power of the sea, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to just tire yourself out and use up all your energy and time getting nowhere. But that also doesn't mean, okay, just float there, this is my fate now. You know, it's about, okay, figuring out, well, where can I go? I can get around this rip current. And that's, I suppose, a kind of an analogy for what we're going through at the moment. There are certain things that we cannot control. They are bigger than us and they're outside of our influence. But that doesn't mean we just give up. It just means, okay, how do we focus on what we can control? How do we get around this obstacle? So just a couple of sort of tips to sum up. You know, as we just said there, focus your time and energy, really consciously bring that attention to what's within my influence. Be mindful as well of the language that you use when you're using to, you know, describe what's happening. If you hear yourself saying, oh, there's nothing I can do, I have no choice, that really, I suppose that language will help you, it'll only help you feel kind of powerless or helpless or more like a victim. Whereas you can change that and say, okay, I don't like my options, but I am choosing to do this. And that again brings that focus on, okay, no, I'm actually in control here. I'm not a victim, I'm not powerless. And then finally there, not to entertain excessive negativity or catastrophizing. And that might be from other people, from the media, or it might be our own internal monologue. You know, sometimes we will be quite negative about how we're describing something, and recognizing that and changing that narrative. But as I say that, for some people that is easier said than done, to just try and switch off the negativity. You know, different people will have different levels of comfort with change or uncertainty. So for example, like people who are more anxious, they're more threat sensitive, and they're more, I suppose, aware of the possible negative outcomes of ambiguity or uncertainty. So and that's not just people who are, you know, really suffering with anxiety disorders. It's just that some people are a bit more anxious than others. And when we have, you know, people that are more anxious, they are more threat sensitive. And so the anxious brain, you know, wants to try and avoid that uncertainty. Like, you know, if you have a fear of dogs, you can just avoid dogs. If you have a fear of heights, you can stay away from heights. But if you're anxious and it's just a general fear of the unknown or uncertainty or ambiguity, it's much harder to avoid that. And the way that the anxious brain tries to combat that is by worrying, because it's thinking ahead into the future and going, okay, I can try and predict everything so that I'm not left, you know, unprepared. Now that's not going to actually, you know, improve the situation, but it's what the mind sometimes wants to do. It doesn't like that ambiguity. It wants to try and fill that in. So this happens to different degrees depending on the person and their natural preferences. And I suppose the reason that I wanted to highlight this is because I've been hearing, you know, for example, some people just dismissing other people's fears or emotions, you know, kind of saying, oh, they're overreacting, or they shouldn't be panicking, or that's a stupid reaction. But again, like this, you know, that's not helping anyone feel better. So when it comes to understanding how to be more agile, it is important to recognize that we're all coming from a different starting point. We all have those individual differences when it comes to how we feel about change. You know, so this is where, again, our skills as a coach comes in. You know, we can express empathy, we can really tune in and listen to other people and have that appreciation for individual differences. And as well, having compassion for yourself. Like if you find yourself worrying about these kind of things, to recognize that that's okay. So we can't really just give the same advice to everyone because it's about trying to understand what a person's starting point is for being agile. So you can see there are a couple of thoughts or things that people might be saying. You know, you have some people who might feel, I want to be prepared for absolutely everything. You know, I want to leave nothing to chance. Others might say, you know, oh, I like that on the fly decision making. I like, you know, leaving things to the last minute. That gives me energy. So, and again, you can have people who are somewhere in between. You know, they might be saying that, yeah, I don't mind change, but I don't like just change for the sake of change. And I think that, you know, the language that people use to describe other people often comes from where that individual is coming from themselves. So if you have someone who says, oh yeah, like I prefer just change that's incremental, you might get someone else saying, oh, they're very stuck in their ways. You know, so it kind of depends on where each individual is standing. So this can be really useful for, you know, especially team coaching, understanding where each team member is coming from. And you may have, you know, teams or cultures that celebrate a particular type or way of looking at the world. So for example, you know, you might have a team who are going, we're, you know, innovators and we're risk takers. But then for those who feel maybe they, you know, prefer to have a really thought out plan in place, they might feel, okay, my view isn't as valued, or maybe I shouldn't voice my opinion. But actually that diversity of ways of doing things can really enhance the decision making or risk taking of a team. So what I want you to do now, I'm going to break you into breakout rooms again, and I want you to just have a little discussion about the potential strengths and the potential limitations of these different approaches. So on the one hand, if you have one person who is more conservative, so you have someone who prefers change that's incremental, they generally accept whatever kind of structure or systems in place, and they prefer to be organized and have their plans in place. Then on the other hand, what about a person who is more innovative? They like expansive change, they like on-the-fly decision-making, and they may be more adventurous. So in the breakout rooms, I want you to just have a discussion about what could each type of person bring to the table, say in a team, for example, and then what might be things that might be challenges for them that they may need to be aware of. So I will set up those breakout rooms again, and I'll just give you about 5 minutes or so. Okay. So I'll give you about I'll give you 6 minutes for that. So have a discussion there about what are the strengths and limitations of each type of person there. Okay. So what kind of discussions were you having? I'd love to hear some of the ideas. So maybe we'll start with the conservative person. What kind of strengths, what kind of things do they bring to the table, or what kind of limitations? What did you guys come up with?
Hi. Well, our group said that the conservative person would be much better in planning and thinking things through. They wouldn't be taking unnecessary risk during this time.
Yeah,
and they would be much better in bringing a structure and time management and a discipline in their daily lives.
Yeah,
right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much for that. And then the innovative person, any ideas of what they might bring to the table at the moment? Anyone feel free to unmute yourselves.
Hi, Julie.
Hi, Lisa.
One of the things that one of my guys on my team is setting up a quiz, so an online quiz, and he's looked into all the different options. I mean, there's people who do it for you, or you can build up your own quiz on various platforms. So that's just something, it's fun, and it's people are excited about it because it's going to break their day, their week. So that was just, that's something he'd do. He'd go off and do something like that to encourage people to come together,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I've seen a few of those going on at the moment. Yeah, those kind of online quiz nights and everything. And it does show that people are being quite creative about this, how do we overcome this, and we're not just going to stick in our rooms and be by ourselves. We're going to stay connected with everyone. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I heard a good one there where you can do a virtual pub crawl.
Oh, really?
Yeah. How it works is you get your other half to leave a drink in each room.
Oh,
and you have a Zoom breakout group in each room, and by the 8th room, if your house is big enough, it's great crack.
Did that, Alan, and it was brilliant. We ended up at an electric picnic in the garden.
Oh, that's brilliant.
A lot of innovation there, Alan. That's absolutely beautiful. Really good.
Exactly, yeah. Anyone else had any other kind of insights that they got, either about conservative people or innovative people, any strengths or limitations they might have?
I suppose a capacity to take risk now. The innovative person will see this as a time for change and a time to innovate and capitalize on this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of, it's a bit of a paradox where some people are kind of going, okay, we need to protect our assets and be safe, but at the same time, you need to kind of stay afloat, and often that requires risk. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for all the inputs. So we're kind of coming towards the end, just to let you know where I got some of this information. It was, these are psychometric assessments. The hardiness resilience gauge is one that we use, and it's basically, it breaks it down the 3 C's of hardiness. So challenge, control, and commitment. Just focused on control today, but they're all really relevant. You know, like challenge is that scale of basically seeing change as exciting and an opportunity to learn and grow. So really helpful at the moment. Commitment is the other aspect of that, and that's about seeing your life as interesting and meaningful. You know, so again, you might have to reassess at the moment maybe the things that made your life interesting you can't do right now. How do we kind of overcome and adapt around that? The risk type compass there is a personality assessment. It kind of extracts the risk related themes of personality. So it's based on the big 5, helps people to understand, you know, how they feel about risk, how they make decisions. And the change style indicator is that other one there, which is about your change preference. So, you know, are you one of the more conservative people who prefers incremental change, or are you on the other end where you're, you know, an innovative originator who prefers expansive change? So that's just an assessment that gives you an indication of the preferences. So if anyone is interested in any of these or wants any more information on them, if they think they'd be useful in your practice, you know, feel free to drop me an email. But as we kind of come towards the end, just to kind of sum up, I think that resilience and agility is really, you know, it comes down often to how you view the situation, how you appraise what's going on around you. Stress management techniques can be somewhat effective, but I think it really comes from how you see the situation, because if you see stress as something that's debilitating, as something that you want to try and always avoid, then it will eventually cause damage because it's inevitable, really. So it's all about training your mind, choosing where to focus your energy, and doing that on a conscious level. So the value only really comes from intentionally putting it into practice. I just have there, if anyone is interested, so I know we talked about, you know, things to be grateful for, and we talked about, you know, switching off from all the negative news and media. So if anyone needs a little uplifting kind of a news network, this one is quite good. It's just the Good News Network. So it's all, you know, true factual news stories, but only positive. So there's always something to be grateful for, and if you're ever struggling, you can always go to that site and find plenty more to it. So you can see there the Earth's ozone is recovering. You know, there's all these really nice uplifting kind of stories. So yeah, it's a nice site. Hopefully you can join us next week. So Tanya Hudson will be hosting it. She's talking about helping coaches and their clients to adapt and innovate and succeed. So same time next week. If you search Dirty Salad Club on Eventbrite and on LinkedIn, you'll be kept in the loop. I'll also be sending on an email after this as well. But that is all from me. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it, found it useful. Please do continue the conversation online on LinkedIn. And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me. Hopefully you stay safe and stay well. Thanks.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.